I love my partner so much, but I don't think I can do this anymore. Sorry in advance for the long post. I need to get this off my chest and any advice is welcome. Me 23F and my partner 24M have been together for almost 7 years, getting together when we were both 17 and in college, UK, and honestly it's been so calm and peaceful in the relationship. We've never argued once, we're very relaxed people when it comes to our time together, and he'd been there for me when I was going through the worst thing a person could go through in regards to health. I love that man with all my heart. However, the entire time we've been together there's always been a few specific things that has been a topic of discussion between us, mostly from my side, and I'm starting to feel myself pulling away from him because of it. For context, he had his heart broken so severely by his first love. Yes, he was young, but the girl had done irreparable damage to his mental health and heart that he'd pretty much gave up with the idea of completely opening up ever again, no matter what. That is what has been the most difficult thing to deal with the entire relationship between us. I am someone that has always been a very emotional person. I feel things deeply, I cry at every little thing and I love to laugh and feel warmth from everyone I surround myself with. But my partner is so cold? Unbothered by everything? I'm not too sure. But he's never really been invested in the relationship. He doesn't even consider our date nights as dates, but he swears he's joking. He isn't a mean person, not at all. But we've never had that type of connection you could say where we can have the deep-hearted conversations about life, our future together or quite literally anything else. I love talking, I'm a professional yapper but he isn't. I never really used to mind it since I could carry the conversations, but man I'm getting exhausted. We talk about a lot of things, but unless it's something he brings up there's not really much said from him. I try and make conversation about shows we could start watching, or even wanting opinions on something like world events or things we could go and do for an adventure, and all I get in response are s, okay s, I don't know s, you'll be fine s. What's really kick-started the whole I don't want to continue this feeling was last weekend. I mentioned to my partner that my mom had gotten a bouquet of flowers from my stepdad and they're absolutely beautiful. I casually asked him why he'd never bought me flowers. I've asked him to plenty of times, but alas, he never has. He looked at me and just sighed, and said I don't feel like having this argument right now. It kind of took me back a little, because I didn't think such an innocent question would be considered kick-starting an argument. Like yes it was slightly out of the blue and I guess it could come across as accusatory, but I was just curious as to why he's never got me flowers, especially if I'd mentioned it numerous times previously in our 7 years together. I thought he'd respond with something resembling a fair reason, but he just sighed again. I just smiled at him after that, because I knew he wouldn't be getting me flowers anytime soon and I didn't really want to push it. A few days after that, I mentioned I wanted to book us a little day out for a nice meal or even just a cinema date, since the weather is currently so beautiful and I hate being stuck inside the house when it's as warm as it has been lately, and it's been a long time since we had a date night. All he had to say about that was, can't we just stay home? I felt a little piece of my soul die right there and then. All we ever do is stay home these days. I've had conversations with him about how his nonchalant approach on our relationship isn't helping us grow together as a couple should, but every time he just shrugs, promises he'll be better, and the cycle just repeats. I've always said if we ever broke up it would be because he broke up with me, because I love him with my entire being. But I think I'm about to turn into the biggest fattest liar I know. Is there any chance I could get through this without having the same conversation a millionth time? Or is breaking up my only option? Questions are welcome. This is a bit of a chaotic mess because my mind is running at 1,000,000,000 miles per hour over this and I don't know what to do.
Relevant comments. Thumatingra. It sounds like your partner may be dealing with some form of depression. Has he ever tried therapy? It might help him process what he's going through now, as well as his past trauma, and how if they're connected. Talk to him about how this is affecting you. Explain where you are right now, calmly, gently, without accusation, but firmly. Give him a chance to figure out if this is a mental illness, and to commit to trying to get better. Especially since he supported you through something difficult. By the way, how did he support you, if he's always so distant? But if he doesn't want to deal with things and grow, you can't make him. If his response is that he isn't interested in trying to deal with this issue and working on himself, then he isn't really interested in working on the relationship. Lifetime relationships are a lifetime of work, though of course if it clicks it gets easier over time, though not linearly, of course. Commitment to a relationship is a commitment to do the work. I hope he can do that. But if he can't, then it doesn't seem as though it would make sense for you to keep trying, either.
OP. I have asked him to try therapy before, actually, because I go to therapy every few weeks for my own traumas and it's really helped me stay so level-headed with my emotions, but always looks so offended when I bring it up, and he just says that's how he is. His family are the same, too, they never argue but there's definitely a rift between his parents that's never really been resolved. I'll definitely talk to him more firmly about this, though, if I can get through it without crying. Again, very emotional person here, haha. I've had this conversation a handful of times, specifically about him opening up and being vulnerable with me, but it never changes. And he supported me while I was going through chemotherapy mid-COVID times. He helped me manage my pain and came with me to my appointments, made sure I was getting the care I deserved. He's very much a physical person instead of emotional, if that makes sense? I never asked him to do a thing once while I was going through that. I expected him to be scared off by it, to be completely honest. I really do hope he acknowledges that he has to do some work on himself to make this long-lasting. I've seen relationships fall apart because the individuals weren't ready for serious commitment and the effort that's required to keep it going, especially if it doesn't just fit perfectly like a puzzle, and I'd hate to see that happen to us. Thank you for your advice, kind stranger. Update. Long post, my apologies X. I posted here 4 days ago about my current situation. Ick how you tag posts on mobile, but it's on my profile, and I thought I'd give a little update. I finally had the chance to have us both to sit down and have a genuine conversation about how I've been feeling about being neglected in my needs when it comes to going on dates, having flowers, and how his I don't care nonchalant attitude has been grinding me down to sand over the last couple of years, and I'd like to say it went well. However, there's one big thing I realized slightly too late, and now I'm even more stressed. The conversation went on for about 2 hours. Before I started, I told him straight up that I need him to tell me how he feels about the things I say. I need input from his own behalf about his views of the relationship when it comes to it, and what he thinks I could work on myself about behaviors I'll be mentioning, so on and so on. For about 95% of the time, he was projecting a very normal I don't care attitude, laughing at some of the things I was bringing up and not saying anything else. I asked him to please take this seriously, and he'd still continue to joke around. He was sitting very comfortably, reaching for his phone every so often, and I'd have to kindly remind him that this isn't the time for doom scrolling. It genuinely felt like I wasn't getting anywhere inside that head of his. That was until I said, word for word, if we both don't make a change that will be healthy for us both in the long run, we need to break up, and I don't want to do that to you, but I will if I have to. I've never seen with my own 2 eyes someone switch up so damn fast. It was actually dizzying. The moment I mentioned breaking things off, he suddenly went into a caring and protective tangent, holding my hand and saying all the nice things he was laughing off not even 10 minutes before I dropped that bomb on him. He immediately started saying we can organize date nights for every fortnight, he'll do it too so it isn't all on me. We can go to the cinema soon and he'll book us in for a nice meal afterwards, I can choose where. He asked me why I never brought this up to him before, and then it was my time to laugh, but man, oh, man, I have plenty of times. It was just obvious he wasn't hearing me. And I won't lie, it felt nice to be actively talking to him and listen to him talk so alive about us going out and being a couple, and that we aren't just housemates. It felt so nice to hear those words come out of his mouth, and he sounded like he genuinely wanted to do it, too. I'd never seen him so passionate about us before. But like I said, the switch up was so fast. And I later wondered why after almost a 2-hour conversation did he immediately go from unbothered to practically getting on his knees and marrying me right there and then. And it's because he knows he can lose me in a heartbeat. He's never been in this situation with me before. I don't think he ever thought it would happen, so he just naturally assumed I never would initiate a breakup no matter how lazy he got. So when I said the words, it was like his survival instinct was to beg and plead and promise to be better. And I genuinely did believe him in the moment. However, now I think it's even worse, purely for the fact that it took me mentioning me leaving him to get his act together. I'm not sure I believe it's coming from a place of honesty and genuine want to make it work. But it shouldn't feel like that, should it? So, now, I find myself in an even worse predicament than I previously was. Because as I said, why did it take this being the only thing to get him to hear me? After so many times I've spoke to him, asked him, practically begged him in previous years to make a change, to actually do it. As always, questions and advice are welcome. My previous post has some answers you could be looking for. Edit. I would just like to add, I asked him afterwards to please try and not immediately feed me with plans to go out. I wanted to feel natural and organized. I know it's counterproductive, but I said I'd like us to sit on our discussion and let it come naturally, not out of pressure to just do something. However, he has came up to me with about 17 different things we could do together, and I am slightly overwhelmed. This was just in the last 2 hours. I posted this 5 hours ago.
Relevant comments. Affectionate Bite 3827. This is so common. The minute breakup/divorce is mentioned seriously, the other person will suddenly make all the changes you've been begging for. Which means 1, they are capable of doing those things, and 2, will do it only when faced with being alone. And usually once they think you're settled back in and things are fine again, things will slip back into the old routine. Do you want to waste time going through this again? You have a whole wonderful life ahead of you, and as someone over twice your age I can tell you the years fly by. Don't waste them begging someone to treat you well.
OP. They are capable of doing those things has hit me like a brick, I tell you. I don't know why I didn't see that. I think that was why I had such an uneasy feeling when I realized he only said those things after I mentioned leaving. Holy cow. I do not want to waste time going through this whole routine again. I'm currently bedbound after last night and it's burnt me out so badly. I don't want to put myself through this ever again when he eventually becomes passive once more. It sucks, it really truly sucks, but I think I'd rather go through the pain of losing a man I had so much faith in than the pain of being disappointed a million times over. Thank you so much, truly. Your words have done something in my mind that I didn't think was possible, Redheart.
Affectionate Bite 3827. I'm so sorry you're going through this, but I cannot stress how much better and lighter you'll feel when you're on the other side of this. Reach out to your friends and family and support system so you're not alone. Your loved ones want to support you and want to see you happy. Glad this helped, but I'm sorry that you are hurting. The reason a lot of people will say, get out, it doesn't get better, is because we have been in your shoes and know something better awaits. But that can't happen if you're pouring all your energy into something that isn't going to work. And to be clear, this is not a failure on your part. You've tried, but it takes two people trying to make it work. He stopped.
OP. I know it's crazy, but there's a tiny part of me that's excited beneath the fear of losing him, but I think that's because we've been together since we were 17. I haven't really experienced what adult life is like as a single woman before, and I don't even care about dating after or anything like that. I just love to learn to love myself when I'm not known as so-and-so's partner. My whole life so far has been about my partner, and it shouldn't be that way at all. I have a really concrete support system, thankfully. My sister and my best friend have already stated their opinion, and I'm grateful for the outside perspective. It's really made things a hell of a lot clearer for me. Thank you again for reminding me this isn't a failure on my part. I truly needed that. I have a session with my therapist coming up this week, so I'll be getting all of this out there, too. I might be able to go forward with it after that. I'm so grateful that there's so many kind strangers on the internet. I appreciate it so much.